I'm Ben Breland. As some of you may know, I haven't been to any of the other meetings because I have a class right now, so it's going to be fun. I worked on the RPI TV titling system over the summer, and now myself and a couple other people are doing the entire graphics suite. They are tailed and mapped.
So a bit of background. Commercial graphics suites are very expensive, as is a lot of video production equipment. We make a lot of things ourselves because it's a lot cheaper that way. We've had a couple of alumni and RPI students work on our graphics system and scoreboard. We make it open source to allow other small organizations to benefit from it. So our graphics suite has two programs. We have the graphic generator and the scoreboard program. Scoreboards are what you see on the top of the screen at sporting events, or at times graphics are what you see at the bottom of the screen generally with stats and players. And those two feed into the image gear, which puts those onto our video stream and sends it out for templates.
Okay, we have a simple diagram of how it works. Excellent. Okay, so here's the actual simple diagram of how it works. So basically what happens is we have our two applications, which are both functionally independent from the image gear itself. So they generate graphics. The graphics application makes PNGs and ships them off. Scoreboard application does SVGs and ships them off. And they're all running as web servers on the same machine. The image gear takes in a video feed over HDSDI, de-embeds that, overlays whatever it has to overlay, and then outputs different video feeds based on what we want on it. So we can either have both titles and graphics and scoreboard and whatever else we want on it. We can do a clean one, so if ever, for example, are in the field house and see like what's on the video board, that's coming out of there, but it's not going to have the scoreboard because it's on a scoreboard, and that'd be silly. We've done it before by accident, but it's not it's a feature that we can choose to turn on or off. We could, we're going to do that a little more later. Yeah, so if you want to go into more details, anyway, if you want to do more details, it renders PNGs from different graphic templates, which are not quite SVGs. It's using its own kind of rendering format with the open source Imagic with PHP. So it's not the most ideal, but SVGs actually don't support auto font size changing. So that one little thing that isn't supported natively is what caused it to originally be using somewhat of a, not proprietary, but not quite as widely adopted standard for that. But anyway, those are pre-rendered as a PNG and then cached to be sent out whenever they're needed. One of the things I worked on over the summer was being able to queue those up because rendering takes a non-zero amount of time, and if you're rendering a lot of titles at once, that can cause problems, especially if you're doing like live video where time is of the essence. So that's currently set up to be working now, and we're expanding upon that. So anyway, then it's sent over to the gear, where it's overlaid in the video feed and all that other wonderful stuff happens. So here's just the user interface. This is how it looks when it's not actively queuing up a file. And those of you who were here over the summer, this is the basic interface itself hasn't changed. Basically, you have all of the different titles that could potentially go up, and then you can edit those titles in place and just change the database of information and render them from there. And here's where you'd be previewing the title before it goes live on a feed. And here's what would be overlaid live on a hockey feed. This is from the Women's Ice Hockey Championship last year. Okay, so the scoreboard application, as you can see on top, that is what would be overlaid on the video feed for a scoreboard. It's just the basic information you would see if you're at a game live for viewers at home. And that is partially a PNG, partially is an SVG. Some of the more intricate elements, like the different fades and whatnot are happening along the center, that is a lot slower when it's being rendered live. And we're obviously not going to render this all as a PNG because we would have to render every second it would be different as a separate image. Every number of times that any of those graphics would change, we would have to re-render it, which would be bad. So that's all done using SVG templating with different variable elements that can be edited, like color of the teams and that sort of thing. That's sent over and overlaid on the video as well. So this is the UI graphics, or UI of the scoreboard, and it's designed to kind of look like a scoreboard does, so it's a lot easier to use. Doesn't really require much more explanation than that. The view is down here of what's going out live. Yeah, so that's what titles look like when they're on a video feed. And on to the next one. That's what titles look like with scoreboard going on in the video feed. So they can both be on or off depending on whoever's on.
So since Ben talked, well, I was going to talk about the scoreboard. I'll talk about the goals for this semester. What we want to do is be able to animate our titles. So it's right now the closest thing that we can get to an animation is fading in and fading out, which is just simply an alpha change. But we want to be able to do more complex things like slide outs, maybe some moving aspects in the graphics. And to do that, we haven't quite decided what the best way to do it is. We need to do some testing with our system to see what works, in the amount of time that we need it to work. Speed's a big factor, and we would want this to be, we don't want any kind of lag because that looks really bad on air. So one thing we were thinking about was animated SVG. It's already standardized. We would need to adapt it a bit for use in our system because we're using it. An animated SVG defines a starting point and an ending point, and has infinite amount of points that it goes to in between. What we need is only 30 points in between for 30 frames in a second of video. So that's one option. Another option would be to continue with PNGs and basically create pre-rendered PNG sequences and then adapt that into our current system. Or, maybe the best option is a little bit of both. Our second goal is to develop more interoperability between our programs. Right now, our scoreboard doesn't really talk to our graphics and vice versa. There are some things that are very similar, and some things get really repetitive to change when, after all this is said. We want to do a UI simplification on graphics, on the graphics program. So that was the first program that Ben showed you. Right now it's clunky to work with, and generally it needs a little bit of an overhaul. And we also want to add, additional sports into our scoreboard system so that it's not just hockey and football as it is now.
So thank you to all the usual suspects, plus the people who originally created titles and graphics and whatnot, Mark ITV, and the people in the union who help us do everything we do.
And give us money.
The important things. All right, any questions? All right. Sure.
Most scoreboards have the ability to get data feeds out of them. So is there any reason you haven't like planned to like get data feeds out of scoreboards?
We actually do. We're talking about the physical scoreboards here, right?
Right.
Yeah, we have a data feed from the physical scoreboard for our scoreboard program. We're talking more like interoperability between our scoreboard program and like the titles. One of the things I worked on over the summer is pulling data from our scoreboard so that you can render the score graphics with the correct up-to-date score. And we want to kind of be updating that with as many stats as we can possibly pull from the direct scoreboard. So yeah, we have thought about that. And we have it for Daktronics and one other, I forget the other one. Each company has their own standard, but the one that RPI uses, we have that working.
But that the feed there only includes time, score. I think you can do penalties, but there are some more intricate things that it can't do that are included in the UI. And if we go to a foreign playing field, they may not have that kind of.
Cornell are very